It is no secret that the Phoenix Suns are looking to add a starting caliber point guard to their roster this offseason. And they have some options via free agency, despite the fact that they're a little bit handcuffed by the NBA's second apron. Now, we are going to break down some potential free agent targets that the Suns might and probably should be looking into this offseason. So sit back and relax and enjoy the ride. This is Suns Digest. My name is Pierre, and we've noticed that there's about 93% of you guys that haven't yet subscribed to the channel. You're watching our videos, that's great, but you haven't yet subscribed to the channel. If you want to keep up with the latest news and updates, rumors, any transactions that are going to be going on, hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with everything that we got cooking for you guys. So we are going to get into it and talk about the fact that the Suns need a point guard. I've been saying it throughout all of our videos, basically, point guard, PG, and no, I'm not talking about Paul George. The Suns need a true point guard to help run this offense. We saw how discombobulated and embarrassing it was during the sweep in the playoffs by the Minnesota Timberwolves. The offense just wasn't clicking, no continuity, no one really running the show. When you have a starting lineup that features Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and then Grayson Allen, Jusuf Nurkic, none of them are natural facilitators. New head coach Mike Budenholzer, he likes point guards. He likes an orchestrator. He likes a quarterback of his offense. That he had that in Drew Holiday when he won the NBA championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. So GM James Jones, they have said that they're making a priority that they need a point guard on this roster. So there are 6 options in free agency that I think the Suns could look into. Now, being a second apron team, you don't have a lot of flexibility. You can't just go acquire a star point guard via trade. They can't just easily go out there and get someone like DeJounte Murray or Trae Young from the Atlanta Hawks. They're going to need to work around the margins. Using veteran minimum salaries is the way that the Suns are probably going to have to go about acquiring a starting point guard. And there are 6 guys that I think that they are probably going to want to look into, kick the tires on, and see what happens. So first guy that we're going to talk about is Kyle Lowry. Now, most folks know Kyle Lowry. He's been around the league for a long time. Veteran player. He's experienced. He's won a championship with the Toronto Raptors. Most recently, he was with the Philadelphia 76ers after he was bought out, after he was traded at the trade deadline and played for the Sixers. And we know Kyle Lowry, he's a dog. He's a fighter. He's a little undersized point guard, but that's never stopped him from having success on the court. And I think that he could be a welcome addition to the Phoenix Suns as a starter or even a backup. Now, last season, he only averaged 8 points per game, about 4.2 assists, but remember, he was in more of a backup role last year. He could still have some starting caliber minutes in him. I think the biggest worry with Kyle Lowry is his injury history. He has been prone, even especially during his recent time with the Miami Heat, to get hurt. He's missed some time, and I think that's definitely a concern for Suns players and fans, the team in general. When you look at, you've already been dealing with some injuries to Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, not having the big 3 together all last season, and whether or not adding Kyle Lowry to the mix would be helpful remains to be seen. But having a veteran presence who knows how to facilitate offense, is a good 3-point shooter, can space the floor, I think is a name that the Suns at the very least should be looking into when you're talking about veteran minimum contracts. The next name we're going to talk about is the Denver Nuggets' Reggie Jackson. Now, Reggie Jackson, backup point guard in Denver, backing up Jamal Murray, but also another guy who has starting experience, big playoff experience. He had time playing with Kevin Durant when he was with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He has playoff experience with the LA Clippers. He's got experience with the Denver Nuggets. He is another one of those guys who the Suns could look at in terms of adding on, again, that veteran minimum deal. We look at Reggie Jackson's numbers last season. He averaged 10 points per game. That's pretty good coming off the bench. And then he averaged 3.8 assists. Now, Reggie Jackson, a little bit more of a scoring point guard, but he does know how to run an offense, does know how to facilitate. It may not necessarily be his primary option, but it is something he's more natural at doing as opposed to like a Beal Booker situation. So having him on a veteran minimum, he's not as good of a shooter, not as good of a floor spacer, but he's a better defender than most people give him credit for. He's a good slasher, he's good off the ball. I think Reggie Jackson is someone that the Suns could look into adding. The Denver Nuggets are also another one of these second apron teams, so they may not even have the ability to retain someone like Reggie Jackson. Next name we're going to look at, this is probably one of the most interesting names we're going to talk about. It's Markelle Fultz. Markelle Fultz, a former number 1 overall pick of the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, that didn't work out. He also struggled with some injuries during his time in Philly, missed a lot of time. went to Orlando, and he's now more of in a backup role with the Orlando Magic. But he has found a little bit of success. He's kind of salvaged his career. He still kind of maybe has that bust label on him, but he's gotten to the point where he's played a lot. He's played some consistent minutes. His health has been a little bit better recently, and he's someone that the Suns might want to look into. If we take a look at his numbers last season with the Orlando Magic, he averaged 7.8 points per game and 2.8 assists. Again, the Orlando Magic have a loaded backcourt. They have Jalen Suggs. They have Cole Anthony. So many guys that are kind of weaving into that offense. It was hard for Markelle Fultz to necessarily find his particular place on the team, but he's still young. He still has a lot of potential ahead of him, and he's someone that you could bring on a veteran minimum. Now, is he going to come in to the Phoenix Suns and be that number one overall pick energy? Probably not. He's probably just going to have to come in and fill a role. But again, he's another guy who knows how to facilitate an offense. He knows that he's not going to be the number one option, and he knows that he's going to be able to fill in a role. It could be a great opportunity for him to be a starter once again in the league. I definitely think it's something that the Suns should consider moving forward. Next name I have for you guys is Chris Dunn. Now, Chris Dunn's maybe not necessarily a household name. He's another relatively veteran player. He's about 30 years old, and he's been around the league for a while too. He's had multiple stops in different places. He had some time. He was drafted by the Minnesota Timberwolves, played in Chicago, and most recently was in Utah. Now, with his time in Utah last season, only averaged 5 points per game, 3.8 assists. Chris Dunn fits more so the mold of the traditional backup point guard. He's someone that can come in for some spot minutes and fill a role, help lead an offense, maybe a second unit team. He's a decent scorer, decent at attacking the basket, solid defender, a little bit undersized though. He doesn't necessarily have great positioning when he's on offense necessarily. He doesn't necessarily slide into a particular spot. He's not the best shooter, so he's not someone that you can just spot up in a corner, but he's definitely someone who can bring some energy off the bench, bring some tenacity, some fire, and that's definitely something that the Suns were missing in the playoffs last season. Next name we're going to talk about is Dennis Smith Jr. Now, this one is also another interesting name. He might be a little bit more well-known because of his stint in Dallas and his time with the Brooklyn Nets. Dennis Smith Jr. is, also on the younger side. He's about in his mid-20s, and he's definitely someone that I think the Suns may want to look into. With the Brooklyn Nets last season, he averaged 6.6 points per game and 3.6 assists per game. Now, Dennis Smith Jr., I think he's got a lot of potential, some untapped potential. I know there are a lot of people that are down on him, that don't believe he's got the ability to really become the talent that everyone thought that he would. But I think if he was given an opportunity running a Mike Budenholzer offense, I think he has a chance to really blossom. I think he's a good shooter. He's a solid defender. He's tough. He gets into it with, he's got that fire that we were talking about before with Chris Dunn, but I feel like Dennis Smith Jr. takes it to even another level. I think he is the kind of player that the Phoenix Suns fans would gravitate towards, with his energy and his effort. And I think that he is definitely someone that the Suns could consider. Again, we're talking about veteran minimum guys here, okay? These aren't household names. These aren't star players, but guys who can come in and play a role. And I think Dennis Smith Jr. could come and do that and actually potentially start for this team. So I got one more name for you guys. This one's maybe a little bit more just for fun. We'll see how it goes. He signed a veteran minimum recently. He's got a former teammate. We could be in for a reunion. Let's talk about Russell Westbrook. Now, I get it. There's a lot of baggage that comes with Russell Westbrook. We know about his time with the Lakers. That wasn't great. We know about his current time, though, with the Clippers, coming in as a backup role, backing up James Harden, and he's excelled. Russell Westbrook's probably still the guy, though, that wants to be a starter, but he's so much further along in his career than when he was in it with his time with Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City, when there seemingly was some friction in terms of who was going to be the guy. But Russell Westbrook, still an athletic freak, still can pass the ball, can still facilitate an offense, and he could be a veteran presence that could actually help the Phoenix Suns. I'm not trying to be crazy here, but I think Russell Westbrook can help the team. Look at last year. Coming off the bench, averaged 11 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, and 4.5 assists. Now, that's in limited minutes coming off the bench for a guy who several times in his career has averaged a triple-double. Does he have the triple-double in him still right now? No. Does he still have some, probably I need to shoot more than I probably really should? Sure. But he's a veteran guy. He can pass the ball. He's in a different stage in his career, and I think he knows that, and I think he could humble himself enough to get to the point where, hey, I'm back here with KD. We can run it back and win that championship in Phoenix that we should have won in Oklahoma City. Now, think about a lineup where that features Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. 4 former perennial all-stars on one team. That would be wild, and one of them's on a veteran minimum contract. I do think that while it is a stretch, I don't think it's too far-fetched. I don't think it's something that the Suns should completely ignore. I think Russell Westbrook could be a legitimate option to land in Phoenix, but that's just what I think. What do you guys think? You guys go ahead and if you guys have any other ideas, any other potential free agent, veteran minimum guys that you think the Suns might want to acquire this offseason, go ahead and comment below and let us know what you guys think about what the Suns are going to be doing in free agency. We're going to be breaking down so much more over the course of this offseason, breaking down other free agent targets, trade possibilities, what the Suns can do within the second apron, and we're going to be breaking it down all throughout this offseason on Suns Digest. You want to make sure you're keeping up to date with what we're doing. Hit the subscribe button below, and you won't miss a thing. Again, my name is CJ Pierre. I'll catch you guys next time, and go Phoenix Suns.